Hello, welcome to the Christchurch Fox Chapel podcast. It's the fastest growing conservative, evangelical, charismatic,
Anglican,
slightly delayed podcast in the entire Fox Chapel area. And the thing about podcasters is when they enjoy a book of the Bible, they become gregarious and inevitably invite guests. And
not gregarious like locusts.
no, well, I hope that's not a euphemism. But
Wikipedia had said, to give you some context, we were talking about how grasshoppers become locusts, and Wikipedia said that following a drought, there's a rapid growth of vegetation. The grasshoppers experience a release of serotonin in their brains, and they become, quote, gregarious, which is very clearly a euphemism for they are apt to make more locusts.
I initially thought it just meant like they just became, I don't know, friendly.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize.
When I think of gregarious, I think of like, all of us sitting down with maybe a pint and
I was thinking like some peanuts and maybe like a game of pool, whatever, darts,
and we're shooting the breeze, and that's not.
As
for
it turns
locusts.
out, so we are joined today by Kris Kann with a horrifically inappropriate introduction. As it turns out,
yeah,
we're not gregarious as the locusts are. We're just thrilled that you would join us to talk about Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. And I'm happy that this has happened because I sort of feel like I've lulled you both to sleep in the dissertation I gave you prior to this. So the little Yetis woke you up just in time, Ben, for the Anglican insert.
They did.
Yeah.
We Kris might be our most reluctant podcast guest, and at the same time our most popular podcast guest.
Yeah, there's a link there.
And for those of you who have not heard her before, she is a very well spoken and wise and godly woman who has shown that she could actually preach probably. Really, really, really well.
Former warden of the church.
Former warden.
Yes. Former is the reason.
Retired.
is the key word there.
Once a warden, always a warden. It's like the Marines. That's how it works.
Well, anyways, we should talk about Joel a little bit together.
We're in the book of Joel. We're in chapter 1, and we're beginning at verse 15 today. Who will read for us?
Would you like me to read? I put my glasses on. I could do it.
Would you mind?
No.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Are you sure,
Cheers.
Ben?
Yeah.
You want to give that up? Okay, 15 where do I stop?
20, please.
20. Okay, okay. Alas for the day of the Lord is near, and as destruction from the Almighty it comes. Is not the food cut off before our eyes, joy and gladness from the house of our God? The seed shrivels under the clods, the storehouses are desolate, the granaries are torn down, because the grain has dried up. How the beasts groan, the herds of cattle are perplexed, because there is no pasture for them. Even the flocks of sheep suffer. To you, O Lord, I call, for fire has devoured the pastures of the wilderness, and flame has burned all the trees of the field. Even the beasts of the field pant for you, because the water brooks are dried up, and fire has devoured the pastures of the wilderness. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to
Thanks
God.
be to God.
One of the themes of the moment is this concept of lament, and a lament being a deliberate cry out to the Lord of grief and complaint, even sort of questioning God and blaming God and vocalizing doubt and frustration. That then moves into introspection and repentance, and then the rebirth of hope, or the renewal of hope, is a kind of classic pattern of lament, front-loaded with a lot of complaining. And alas is a lamentetic introduction. I don't know if that's a word, but apparently in the Septuagint, the Greek version of this Old Testament, it says, alas, alas, alas. They just kind of really laid it on.
Alas, alas, alas.
Yeah.
For the day of the Lord is near.
Yeah.
What's the day of the Lord?
The day of the Lord is probably Judgment Day, the end of all things. And so immediately here we've got this kind of telescoping thing going on. So they have locusts in their fields and in their granaries and in their house of worship and in their homes and in their beds, probably everywhere. And they are saying this thing right now is like the end of the world. Yeah.
Well, and isn't it so funny? This is the Old Testament, and this cascading of events is just going, from bad to worse, and it's getting worse by the day. And they're like, the end has to be near. And isn't that what they say we're going to see?
Yeah.
Everything's just going to get worse and worse, and then the Lord's going to come.
Yeah. I think we don't emphasize sometimes how unique of a view of like history and reality this is. Like Friedrich Nietzsche had this idea that the universe was constantly expanding and then contracting and then expanding and then contracting. So the same events that we're experiencing now have happened billions and billions, infinite times before, and will continue to happen. And so everything's just cyclical. It's like you remember those old VCR tapes? They're old now.
Yes.
But you'd rewind it at the end and then you could play it again. It's like that.
Or you get a fine from the video shop if you don't rewind it.
Yeah, those were the days.
I probably still have some at my house.
Really?
Oh, probably. Some old Disney. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
That's right.
Those are probably worth something. No, I'm sure they're not, actually. But yeah.
I mean, it's funny, isn't it, as well, because crackpots and cranks or whatever, like Nietzsche, they can be full of it and yet also onto something.
Yeah.
Because this nihilist, that he was, looks at this kind of cyclical nature of things and concludes, well, there's no hope. And a believer looks at it and says, yeah, we've been there before, and look how faithful God was last time,
right.
And maybe it's on us. We're responsible here. That's jumping the gun a bit in Joel, but that is definitely the big picture of what's going on in this book.
But one thing I do want to underscore, though, is that there is like the Christian view of reality, and the Jewish one too, is that everything is headed somewhere. It's like there will be a definitive end,
right?
And so like evil and suffering and all this stuff, like it's headed toward this sort of reckoning moment where it will all be dealt with. So it's not like evil is just like a permanent part of the world that it's always going to be there. Like,
yeah,
we can actually fight against it because someday it's going to be defeated.
Apparently, alas, I've got the Strong's Concordance open, means either alas, ow, or ah.
Not
what it
good.
means. It means, oh, ah,
Yeah.
is what it means, actually. Oh, ah. Yeah, kind of.
Sounds like you stubbed your toe and you're bouncing on one. Oh, like you did on church on Sunday, bounced around on one foot.
Oh, ah.
I do that quite often.
So it looks like a kind of onomatopoeic word. Uh-oh. It's kind of a bit Teletubby-ish.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. That's what it means. So there's this crying out of, oh no, for the day. And the day of the Lord is interesting because it is good and bad, depending on who you are. Mm-hmm. There's judgment for the enemies of God. There's vindication for the people of God. Terrifying moment that actually ultimately is about who you are. Mm-hmm. And they are clearly viewing this present plague and suffering as related to the end of the world. Like, oh, it really is the end of the world, or it feels like the end of the world, or it's like the end of the world, or it's preparing us for the end of the world. Feel free to discuss, but they're clearly linking the two.
Yeah. It's like a window into that. What do you guys make of, like, people will look at, like, events going on in our culture and then be like, this is what it says.
The end is nigh.
Right, yeah, therefore the end is going to happen in 3 years or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Well, no one knows the time, right? Jesus even said that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we don't know. But
I don't know.
No.
But you can kind of read the times. I like what Joel does. It's like okay, this day is going to exist somewhere out there, and we see a little like shadow of it, maybe you could say.
Right. And so what?
Right now.
So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? The end is nigh, or not nigh, or nigh-ish. What are you going to do? You're gonna worship God or reject him ultimately.
Yeah.
So he does some theology here, still in verse 15, because he says, as destruction from the Almighty it comes. So God did this, and already the lament has moved from, God, why have you let this happen to us? Are you weak? Are you a failure? Are you bad? To, oh, God is doing this to us for a brackets good, close brackets reason. And at that well, again, we're going to have to wait a bit to resolve that. But it almost feels like this is part of that questioning thing. Could it be that God is behind this? I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels like they're saying.
The imagery that he points out here seems almost like famine, I guess. I'm getting all these like Genesis echoes. You know, the book of Genesis. Like there's Egypt had the granaries. There was a giant famine in the land, and there's all these plagues on the. This isn't. Yeah.
Oh yeah. 100%. Yeah. In fact, Bible Project is talking about this right now. Really interestingly,
yeah.
Same thing, and they're saying on that Tim Mackey and the other bloke say that whatever his name is,
John Collins.
Yeah, the other bloke. They say they say that the Bible does this. It plants keywords together in succession to trigger off kind of folk memory of stories. So yeah, plague, granary, famine, ding ding ding, Genesis.
Yeah,
this is like that time before. I think definitely.
Yeah.
Reminiscent of a big part of the story that they would tell over and over again.
And it's supposed to take us back to like God had executed judgment on Egypt. That's sort of like the like moment of the first day of the Lord, you could say. And he's saying, this is just like that, except you, Israel, you are Egypt.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's why you need to repent. Yeah.
Wow, I'm going to press the lost substantial point button.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks. As my late grandfather used to say, even a blind squirrel gets an acorn sometimes.
Nearly ran over a squirrel today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I felt terrible, but it survived.
So we went into the garage yesterday.
This is literal squirrel. Like we did literally.
I went into the garage and my cat Davy was eating a chipmunk.
Oh yeah.
He had caught a chipmunk and was proceeding to eat it in my garage on the carpet that I had just laid out.
Oh, they always go to the carpet, don't they?
Yeah.
Rugby does this. I'm going to throw up quickly. Find a Persian rug.
Not on the tile.
Yeah.
Not on the tile. Whatever you do.
Don't do it in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That's gross.
It's like welcome to the neighborhood, everybody. Like meet our cat that eats squirrels, literally. Anyways, there we are. Sorry.
No, thanks.
We had a cat who would bring various animals into the backyard, and Prance was just so proud of what he had done, and these animals were just like limply hanging, out of it. At every step he took, they would just go, limp, hanging out of his mouth, and he'd get there onto the porch, and he'd let it down, and they would. Like they play dead the whole time. They would take off, and before they took off, some of them would even they'd turn around, like they were filing a complaint from being
They were lamenting. They were probably saying, "Alas, alas, alas."
Joel would say, verse 18, "How the beasts groan."
Oh,
exactly.
Wow, rescue. We need a rescued the podcast sound.
Yeah,
program that for next week. Yeah. So, in fact, actually, it says here that the cattle are perplexed, which is a wonderful word. It means in Hebrew to be confused with confusion. So
that's confused.
In a sense, like the animals are saying, "What is going on? There's no food," and I think this is now reminding us of these cascading crises, like you just said a few minutes ago, Kris. That we can't eat the animals because they're dying, they're dead, they're rotting now. We can't use them to sacrifice either because they're rotten, and so there's this calamity of starvation, this economic calamity, there's this worship calamity, there's the personal calamity. And then on top of it, fire has devoured the pastures in the wilderness. And scholars debate whether this could be a metaphor or not, but it goes on to say flame has, I think it says something about brooks, drying brooks or something. Flame has burned all the trees of the field. The brooks are dried up. Sounds a bit more literal to me, like it literally.
Do you think this followed the locusts? I could see it kind of almost affecting weather patterns. If locusts come through, they eat all of the green leaves. All the trees are dead now. Everything dries up. There's nothing pumping carbon dioxide.
Well, and didn't you even say that to have a locust swarm was a weather event to even make that happen? Wasn't that part of it?
Yeah, I mean, the wind would carry them.
Drought followed by heavy
rains. Yeah, so maybe this was a weather event that followed there.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But then, how that would feel. I mean, imagine, COVID wasn't very nice, but imagine if there was I don't know why it's called COVID-19. Please write in if you know the reason, because it happened in 2020. Feels like that was really awkward.
I know why.
Why? Was there a COVID-18?
No, it originated in 2019. They first found it in a fish market in China in December of 2019.
Oh, you're right.
So that's why it's called COVID-19.
You're right.
And it's
a fish market.
Coronavirus.
Was that the one next to
disease.
The Wuhan coronavirus lab?
Yeah, well, I think that's actually proven now, right? Isn't it? Or
I don't know if we're allowed to say that or not.
Yeah. I don't know.
I wish we had a loss high coincidence button that we could press.
Yeah.
But okay, anyway, we digress. What if there was a COVID-20 and a COVID-21 or, cascading crises? Are there any in our world today? Does it feel like the crisis is over? Are we all fine now? Or are we also experiencing personal and corporate, national, international crises still?
I almost feel like if you have... So the house that I'm moving out of, that I just moved out of, and we're trying to clean it out right now. And it's just filthy. But part of the reason that it's filthy is that the house is so old that it's decomposing. And so it's not like we're filthy people, and so therefore we had a filthy house.
I think you're very clean.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, thanks. I worry about that sometimes.
But I do know what you mean. Something is so old it can only get so clean.
Yeah.
It's just the house just keeps decomposing. Yeah. And sometimes I wonder if our society is kind of just decomposing, and so we have no kind of moral or social order, and so therefore naturally everything is going to be a chaotic crisis all the time. Period. All the stuff's going to happen because we just don't have functioning institutions, because we don't have functioning people.
Right.
I don't know. That's fine. That's my 2 cents.
No, I think that's fair enough. I mean, if we have any middle school listeners, which we probably don't have many of, they would say, it's miserable at school. Everyone's doing this, that, and the other, and being a Christian in an environment like that is really hard. And anyone older than that, it's gone into the workplace, maybe in their first job. If you've grown up in a fairly sheltered Christian environment and you've gone into secular workplace, this could be a real culture shock in terms of how people treat one another and think. And it just goes on, doesn't it? I mean, everywhere. The world is really, really tough right now. And so and notwithstanding our material comforts, so what message do we have even just in this passage? There's not much in this stage of the lament. That there's destruction, it's come from God. There's no seeds, the storehouses are desolate, our food reserves have dried up, the animals are all confused with the confusion. The pastures, everything is on fire, there's not even any water in the stream. And then here endeth the lesson.
Yeah. Right. So there's not a lot of mention about lament in this particular passage.
There's not a resolution to the lament in this part of the passage.
Right.
It's pretty miserable.
It is pretty miserable. But I do think, in terms of COVID and things that you were talking about, the fallout, the isolation and our own little bubbles that we've created, the effects are still there. We're still trying to work our way out of it. And I think lament, for me, this is a great sermon series, because one of my favorite quotes from my favorite English preacher,
Simon Ponsonby?
Charles Spurgeon.
Oh,
yeah.
Croydon
it's
boy.
truly you, but it's truly, yeah.
You're ahead of Charles Spurgeon.
Yeah.
What?
No, but he does say,
Okay.
he's my second. No, let sorrow have a tongue where sympathy has an ear. And I love that. It's just so great. Oh.
No, Karen.
Oh, what are you doing?
This will just play in the background.
What is that?
It throws me off every time,
Yeah.
too.
Oh, okay.
He always does.
You've been awarded one Mario coin. Ding.
Oh,
okay, Karen.
nice.
You've got a Mario coin.
Oh, thank you. I never get anything. I never win anything. But I feel like that unifies us when we are in a situation, even if your problem isn't solved, no one has the magic answer, but you've been able to lament, to mourn, to just get your feelings out and let other people in. It's a unifying thing. So for a church to be able to do that, or like this community to be able to do that, you're on your way to healing and restoration.
Right. I think that's the essence of this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the essence of the necessity of lament. We're still in the book of Joel at the recognizing things are bad stage. Let's get it out. Let's talk about this.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that Charles Haddon Spurgeon quote's amazing. I'd not heard it before, but it's great.
Yeah.
We're not going to be open with each other unless we're about as good at receiving openness, right, as a church. It's a culture change thing in which the confessor and the hearer have got a part to play.
Right.
Yeah. And I've experienced people saying, like, I would open up, but I'm really just afraid of being rejected. Mm-hmm. And all the times that I see someone really open up and be vulnerable, it almost involves, oftentimes I've found them seem embarrassed afterwards. But no one is looking down upon that person in the room. Right. Actually, everyone's like kind of breathing a sigh of relief, like, okay, like I can be safe here too.
Right.
And if God is the pastor in Joel, for example, then what's really great about 15 through 20 is he doesn't speak up and do the, oh, it's all going to be fine section. There isn't one. Mm-hmm. God doesn't interject and say, now listen, after all I've done for you, creating gravity and, food, like, how dare you? There's not that. God doesn't go, look, chin up, put up with it. It'll come around. There's nothing. It's just, this is the moaning bit.
Right.
And I think it's so important within a community like ours, that if we're going to be vulnerable, it may take 5 conversations for your lament to turn to the how we're going to fix it section. Mm-hmm. It may be heavily, the first 3 or 4 conversations might be heavily just kind of listening to the complaint. Right. God doesn't.
But if you've ever been in a situation where, where I have many time, and you are able to lament, you're able to just get your feelings out, and nothing is resolved, you walk away lighter, even before you get to that meeting where, okay, what are we going to do about this? And sometimes I think, that question, when Jesus asked the blind man, what can I do for you? Or sometimes in the healings, he asked, what is it that you want? Even though he knows. A part of that is, which you've all taught, is the relationship aspect. But also I think it's just lament. Tell me, get your feelings out. What is it that there's something about just naming whatever it is.
Yeah.
speaking it. I think it's really important in families too. Like really any social system, any group of people, the ability to have language surrounding suffering is very vital and life-giving. But it's really hard. It's difficult to do. It takes courage, and it takes prayer and a lot of showing one another a lot of grace, because the moment you reject someone in the middle of that, as they open up, you then send a signal to everyone else
Right.
that they cannot open up themselves.
Right.
So it's really challenging, I think, in any community to cultivate that.
Yep.
Yeah. And then that word cultivate is so key to one of the people who in some ways inspired this series is a guy called Mark Sayers, who we've read his books and listened to his podcast. This Cultural Moment is a great podcast, and in this cultural moment they explore the link between the word culture and cultivate. And this is a really agrarian set of images, and as the land lies fallow, burned, trashed, eaten, on fire, covered in rotting things, they're cultivating in the barren land faith. And that's so fascinating.
Yeah.
That there's a farming of a kind going on as they inculcate a new culture, inculcate a new culture through cultivating faith in the wilderness. And that, I think, is a theme we're going to see over and over and over again in these in this book.
Yeah.
Is that we don't wait until it's good to get right with God.
Right.
That actually, in all probability, disaster is going to be a greater driver of growth than good times.
It always is.
Yeah.
What do you learn from winning? Almost very little.
We're channeling Toto Wolff now. This is what Toto says every time. Lewis, this is Toto. No, we are definitely channeling Toto Wolff right now. For those of you not familiar, this is a great opportunity for you to become a fan of Formula One. He is the team principal of Mercedes AMG Petronas, and but he always says, like, we don't learn anything when we win. We sit around going, yay us, but we learn a ton when we lose, because we have to say, why did we lose? Why did we not this? Why, when things went wrong, we learn more. Yeah.
Why is it that we don't say, why did we win?
We're too busy basking.
Things would be so much easier if we just said, why did we win? Let's really think about that.
When we win,
we're too busy parading our successes and basking in the glory and all of those things.
True.
Yeah.
I must have won because I'm awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do. We're like, it's clearly because we're fantastic.
Right.
But
we just did everything right, so we don't have anything to change or grow
When we lose, we have to figure it out. Yeah. It's suffering can be really good for you.
Well, I don't want to try and turn the conversation to some kind of positive crescendo, because I think that is just not in the kind of genre of this text. It is bad, so we're going to say it's bad.
Yeah.
And that's bad.
Sit in it. Here endeth the lesson.
Yeah, they seem happier than I fear is appropriate.
Yeah. They're just not catching on. They're not very sensitive about these
communication barrier. Did go to a barber's yesterday with Ben, and they were listening to a Colombian radio station. So
not me, Ben, his son.
Yeah, I didn't take my colleague to get his haircut. All right.
I need one.
This has been a podcast of Christ Church Fox Chapel. Kris, thank you for joining us. We absolutely love having you on. We hope to have you back. And if you want to be like Kris, join us.